What's up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel and welcome back to the BTB Fitness Podcast. Hope all of you guys are having a great day so far. Happy Friday. I am filming this on a Friday morning, early afternoon. It's 11:20 a.m. I don't know if that's considered morning or early afternoon, but hope everything is going good with you guys. I'm actually going to go hit legs after I film this. So really what I'm doing here is I'm just procrastinating my leg day, right? Because legs, I've kind of mentioned this on my Instagram and my TikTok. Legs has been scaring the shit out of me as of late. Like just the mental stress and anxiety and everything that it kind of causes has really been high. So one of the things that I've been trying to do as of late is try to get as much work done as I can before I go to the gym and do legs because I notice that when I come home from legs that I'm usually so tired, both physically and mentally, that my ability to do work after legs is pretty poor. And if I do get stuff done, it's not as good of quality as it would have been if I had done it beforehand. So you guys are helping distract me from doing my leg workout. I'm sitting here drinking my trusty Monster. You guys, if you follow me on TikTok, you know I love these. This is the Mango one, Ultra Fiesta Mango. I'm going to set this like this, maybe some convenient product placement, maybe Monster, maybe they'll reach out to you, boy, and send me a case or something. We're going to go ahead and get into today's video. So it has been a while since I've done a listener Q&A for my TikTok page. This is something that I used to do very, very frequently, but as of late, I just have kind of gotten away from it. So I wanted to do another one of those for today's podcast episode. I did post a video on my TikTok channel a couple of days ago that I use as kind of like the source to gather questions from. So if you guys are watching this video and you don't follow me on TikTok, I highly recommend you do that. My username is in the description below. And just pay attention to my content, because whenever I throw these up, then you guys can participate and ask some questions. So I had a bunch of great questions off the video. I did get some questions that were repeats, and I did have people asking multiple questions. So just a heads up, guys, like when that happens in the future, I'm going to try and only pick one question per person, and I'm going to try and not answer the same question too many times. So we've got 10 questions to go over today, and we're just going to go ahead and get right into these. So first question comes from Declan Wolf 7, and they ask, how do you know if you have good bodybuilding genetics? So first things first, I stole this from Ron Partlow, but the way that I like to think about genetics, I really feel like genetics in bodybuilding terms, whenever people bring that term up, they usually mean, they think of it as like one thing, one all-encompassing thing. But the thing that I stole from Ron Partlow that I mentioned earlier is the way that I like to think of genetics or picture genetics is kind of like an equalizer. I am not like in the music industry and really know what that is, but obviously some of you guys will probably know what an equalizer is, right? It's got a bunch of dials and knobs and stuff that gets turned on, and that's kind of how I like to think about genetics. Genetics isn't just one thing or a couple of things. Good genetics. I think of good genetics as an equalizer. We have all 50 different turns and dials. The ability to stay lean, the ability to maintain a good appetite, having a wide clavicle, having big shoulders. Like, there are so many things that go into the phrase genetics. And so how do you know that you have good bodybuilding genetics? Well, I think the first thing is realizing that genetics isn't just like your physical genetics, right? There are mental genetics, your ability to stick to a training program and not cheat on it, your ability to stick to a diet and not cheat on it, your ability to force yourself to do things that you don't want to do on the days that you don't want to do them. I consider all of those things genetics that most people probably would not consider as typical bodybuilding genetic terms. Usually when we talk about bodybuilding genetics, we talk about like the physical genetics. shoulder width, waist width, your ability to respond to PEDs in training, and all of that type of stuff. So, that doesn't really answer your question, but that is kind of like one thing that I want to put off first and foremost, is that understand that genetics is this very big, like broad, encompassing term. That does not mean just your physical genetics. And then as far as the answer, man, the way that you figure out if you have good bodybuilding genetics is by investing 5 to 10 years into the sport, and seeing what happens. I know that that's not really the best answer, and probably not the answer that you're looking for. But I think people are under like the impression that you can see somebody and you can identify just by looking at their body, if they have good bodybuilding genetics. And in some instances, that is the case. And again, going back to the physical attributes, you can look at someone and you can say, okay, like you have a really wide clavicle and a really narrow waist. Like those are good physical genetics for bodybuilding. But if that individual doesn't have the mental genetics to put in the work and be able to actually achieve the results that they need to achieve, it doesn't really matter. And so I've gotten this question a lot, but what I personally think the best thing to do is just simply bodybuild because you love bodybuilding, not bodybuilding because you're under the impression that you have like some sort of like crazy potential, or anything like that. And obviously I don't want to discourage people from bodybuilding and chasing their dreams, but the reality of the situation is that if you're doing the sport and chasing the sport just because you think that you have the genetic potential to reach the top, one, you're probably not going to enjoy the process a whole lot as you're going through there. And two, I think people really have like the wrong idea about this sport, man. Unless you're like a top 5 Olympian or an extremely elite level, well-known influencer, making it to the top of bodybuilding is not going to be this like massively financial, life-changing thing. And so, again, I don't know if that directly answers your question, but I would really focus on bodybuilding for the right reasons. Bodybuild because you enjoy bodybuilding, not because you're under the impression that you have the genetic potential to reach the top, and don't let that stop you. Like, I don't know what my genetics are. I have no idea. I've been doing this for 5 to 6 years. I don't know if I have good genetics or bad genetics, but it doesn't really matter to me. I bodybuild because I love bodybuilding, and whatever happens is just a benefit from that. Second question comes from Druvishin TV. I hope that I pronounced that right. Should we do 2 different variations of an exercise in a single microcycle, or is it better to do one exercise twice in a single microcycle? So I am of the impression that we should do different variations if we have the equipment available to us. So if we have a legs A workout and a legs B workout, maybe on legs A you do the leg press, and on legs B you do the Smith squat or a hack squat. I would rather do that than do the leg press on both legs B and legs A. I think that the variety of exercises will load the muscle in different ranges of motion, put the muscle through different ranges of motion, load it with different resistance profiles, train it through different angles, and just the general thought process is the more variation that we have, the better to an extent. Obviously, there's a certain point where, we don't want to be doing 6 different squatting movements and going an extended period of time in between each one. But if you do have the equipment available to you in order to, have different variations in each workout, that is going to be the best way to have a longer run of progress, so to say. So if you don't have the equipment available to you, then you can make it work with 2 times in a single microcycle. And I actually have a question that asks this exact same thing later on in the video we'll go through. But if you do have the equipment available to you, I definitely would do different variations in each microcycle. Next question comes from Rowan Ibanez, and they ask, where did you learn everything that you know? I've been wanting to learn how to start coaching and program for powerlifters. So I learned everything that I know from people who are smarter than me. I am completely, utterly, totally obsessed with bodybuilding. It is quite literally the only thing that I think about every single day. I'm always thinking about how I can, adjust a training workout to be better, or a diet to be better, or things like that. So I'm completely self-taught. And the gasoline that fuels that is my never-ending obsession for bodybuilding. So basically, if I'm not training or working, like doing my own client work, I'm watching a video or listening to a podcast from somebody who is more experienced than me, and is a high-level educator in this scene. And I just try to learn as much as I can. And when someone says something and they explain something, and I think about it and I think, okay, like that actually makes sense, like maybe there could be some application here, I try it. I try it on myself and I try it on my clients to give me a general idea of, is this something that actually works in real life, or is this just a good methodology? So honestly, man, the way that I have like learned everything that I've known is just by trial and error, and by being completely obsessed with this, and trying a lot of different things and listening to a lot of different people's opinions, and then just trying to formulate my own thought processes from there. The thing about powerlifting and bodybuilding coaching is there really is no like formal education that you can get on this. Like if you go to school for like exercise science or kinesiology or any of that stuff, like they're not teaching you how to coach and train bodybuilders or powerlifters or program. Like they're teaching you how to exercise, program and stuff like that for typical average people, or like a physical therapy type of setting. And if that's not the thing that you want to do, then that form of education is probably not going to be very applicable to you. Bodybuilding and powerlifting is a very niche type of community, and so you should be learning your information from people who are fully involved and invested in that niche community. I think that's going to do you much better than trying to get formal education. And then experience. Get a job as a personal trainer, start coaching your friends for free, and start applying things on people, because that is probably the biggest disconnect within the training and the coaching industry now. Is it seems like everyone nowadays is all education. This study says this, and blah 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 blah, just a bunch of nonsense. But the reality is there's a very large percentage of things that get talked about in studies and science and everything, that when you apply that on real life people, it doesn't work. And so it doesn't matter to me like what a study says or what any form of formal education says. If I try it on 10 clients and it doesn't work, or it only works on 1 out of the 10, I don't really consider that relevant information. So, the best way to learn things is by being obsessed with this and just trying to learn everything that you know, and then trying things out on yourself and trying things out on clients if you can get clients to work with you. Own and Grind asks, how long did you take to grow that majestic beard? So my beard, man, I've been growing my beard out for a long time, and I trim it every once in a while. But if I were to shave my beard like fully flat, like to the face, like clean shave, it would probably take 3 months, maybe a little bit more, maybe like 3 to 4 months to grow it out to this length here. This isn't your question, but I get questions sometimes about like, what are some tips? Man, I have no tips on how to grow a beard. This is all 100% genetic. I come from a family of very hairy men, and it's all just passed down. So it probably would take me about 3 to 4 months from a clean shaven face to grow it out this long. Yeah, I feel like that's pretty accurate way. It's been a long time since I've trimmed it, shaved it like that, but it's probably about 3 to 4 months. Young Connor asks, should a bodybuilding focus include deadlifts? So I am of the opinion that the answer to this question is yes. It doesn't have to be a traditional deadlift, but I do think that we need to have some sort of deadlift variation or a hip hinge in our program, whether that's a conventional deadlift, a snatch grip deadlift, an RDL, a stiff leg deadlift, a trap bar deadlift. I do think we need to have some form of hip hinge exercise in our training program. I think that anecdotal evidence on this is pretty straightforward and pretty clear. All of the competitive bodybuilders that have done some form of deadlift variation consistently in their program and have gotten strong on it over time have huge hamstrings and glutes, and they have very well developed lower back and spinal erector thickness, and then they typically have big traps too. I just don't think that there's any exercise that can really replace a deadlift. Obviously, we have different exercises that can train the same muscles, but we typically can't train all of those same muscles simultaneously like how we can in a deadlift variation, and we cannot load the muscles with the same amount of external stimulus weight on the bar with anything else like what we can with a deadlift. Like, yeah, you can mimic an RDL on a hyperextension, but I can RDL 325 pounds for 5 reps, and I can probably do 25 pounds on a hyperextension for 10 reps. Like, yeah, we're training the same muscles, but I don't think the bang for your buck is quite the same. So yes, I do think that a deadlift variation of some sort is a non-negotiable in your training program if the goal is hypertrophy. Kyle 350A asks, are your transitions from bulking and cutting gradual? Most of the time they're not. No, typically I just get the ball rolling right away. So if I end a cut and I'm ready to go ahead and I get into a bulk, I just go ahead and I aggressively add calories right off the bat, and vice versa. If I finish a bulk and I'm ready to start a cut, I pull calories right away. I don't really see tons of merit in doing the gradual transitions. I used to do gradual transitions when I first started, but typically what just happens is it leads to a bunch of wasted time. So like if I finish a cut and then I slowly add calories back in until I get back into a surplus, it may take me 4 to 6 weeks of adding calories back in just to get back to caloric maintenance. And the way that I see it, that's 4 to 6 weeks of extending the diet when that isn't the goal. So no, my transitions are typically not gradual. They're typically pretty aggressive. I get the ball rolling, and I don't like wasting time. Joe McHale, 19, asks, do you prefer training alone? How do you feel when training? Do you ever get bored adding to that when you have no motivation? How do you get yourself? So a couple things here. First, yes, I do prefer training alone. This is such a meathead thing to say, and I don't want to sound like a douche when I say this, but I have had a really hard time finding consistent training partners. I may be able to train with people for a couple of days at a time or maybe a couple of weeks, but eventually I just find that whether it's a scheduling conflict or a goal conflict, or the person just like, again, I'm not saying this to brag, but they can't keep up with the intensity of the training. So I do prefer training alone. I think that it is the best for me personally. The only person who I've been able to continuously train with and never have any issues in terms of strength differences or intensity differences is my client Joey, but he has recently relocated to Florida, so I don't really get a chance to train with him obviously as often as I would like to. So yes, I do prefer training alone. How do I feel when training? Honestly, man, I don't really know. I don't really know how to answer that question. I would say most of the times I don't really feel anything. I mean, I feel like I'm at the gym and I feel like I'm there to do my work, and that's it. And I get out. And yeah, I don't really try to make it like a big thing, really. And then what do I do when I have no motivation? I force myself to go. It's as simple as that. When I don't feel like going, I know that I have to go anyways, and I just tell myself to shut the fuck up and go. So I know that some people won't have that level of mental discipline to be able to make themselves go. But I do, and that's what I do. So unless my body is giving me very clear signs of needing to deload or something, then obviously I would consider taking a deload. But today, my body feels fine, everything is all good. I just don't particularly feel like going to the gym and training legs today. But my goals don't give a shit about what I feel like. My goals require me to go to the gym and hit legs today, so I force myself to go. The real Gus Johnson 1 asks, how much rest time do you use between sets? I don't have a set time. I rest as long as I need to in order for my oxygen debt to come down and to allow myself to get ready to attack the next set. And that varies between exercises. So if I do 2 working sets on like a bicep curl, I may finish my first working set of a bicep curl, and it may only take me a minute or 90 seconds for my heart rate to come back down to normal and for all of the like lactic acid and metabolites and stuff to clear out of my biceps. And it may only take me 60 to 90 seconds to feel like, okay, I'm ready to attack the next set. Whereas something on a hack squat, it may take me 5 to 10 minutes to fully like recover my nervous system and recover my oxygen debt to be able to go again. So the answer, how much time do I rest, is as long as I need to. I don't have, specific time frames that I choose from. It varies in between exercises and rep ranges too. Even like if I finish an 8 rep set, I typically can recover my breath quicker than how I do after I finish a 20 rep set. So there really is no one set answer. I don't time anything. I finish a set and then I just kind of chill out until I feel my heart rate is back to normal and all of the like I said, metabolites and pump and all that stuff is kind of cleared out of the muscle. When I get to the point where I know like, okay, I can do this next set right now and there would be nothing that is like gonna hold me back from getting more reps, like I'm fully recovered to go again, and I go away immediately, or I go right away immediately. I don't wait any longer than that. Shafala Healthy. This is a question that goes back to one of the very first questions that I answered. If I am in a situation in which I have to use one exercise for quads in both leg days, how would I do that? So this kind of parrots off of the second question, if we have should we do different variations? So let's, like I already said earlier, in an ideal world, yes, we would do different variations, but let's take an instance of where we can't do different variations. Let's say that you train at a gym that has very limited equipment, and like, let's say your gym only has a leg extension and a leg press, and let's say they don't even have a barbell for a squat. That would be a pretty shit gym, but just for the sake of the video, entertain me on this hypothetical situation. So how would you do that? So a couple different ways that you can do that, and really the main thing that you're trying to accomplish is you're just trying to differentiate the two exercises by adding in some different variations. So I'll give you like 3 examples. So let's say you have 2 leg days a week, legs A and legs B, and you have to do the leg press in both of them because your gym doesn't have more equipment. You could switch your rep ranges. So let's say on legs A, you do the leg press and you do your heavier set first and then you do your lighter set. On legs B, you could do that in the opposite order. You could do the lighter set first and then the heavier set. You could do both sets on the legs A day, heavy work, and then both sets on the legs B day, the lighter work. So like legs A, you do 2 sets in the 5 to 10 rep range, and then on legs B, you do 2 sets in the 15 to 20 rep range. So one day is like heavy leg press and one day is light leg press. And then a third example that you could do is you could add a pause. So let's say you do like regular leg press on legs A where you just come into the full stretch and then you go back up. And then on legs B, you do paused leg press where you come into the bottom and then maybe you hold that for a 3 count and then come back up. So you're just trying to differentiate the lifts. So maybe one day is heavy leg press and one day is light leg press. One day is regular leg press and one is paused leg press. One is heavy light and the other day is light heavy. You're just trying to have some sort of undulation in the rep range or execution so that you're not doing the same exercise in the same rep range every time that you train in the gym. So this will probably be pretty common for a lot of people. A lot of people don't train in gyms that have tons of equipment available to them, so they may have to use the same exercises multiple times throughout the week. So just make sure that you vary the rep range or the variation that you're doing in some sort. And then the final question will come from Carrie Mel Massery, 700. If my lifts are progressing during a cut, does that mean I'm building muscle during the cut? Maybe. Here's what I always say. For someone of my experience, the odds that I'm going to be building muscle in a deficit is kind of a pipe dream. I've been training for 5 years or more, and so at this point, if I'm not considered an advanced trainee, I'm definitely considered an intermediate trainee, and it's just not really realistic for me to build muscle during a cut. I think unless you're a beginner as well, the odds that you're putting on muscle during a cut is pretty low. But what I will say is that if you're progressing your lifts during a cut, even though you may not be building muscle, you're definitely at the very least not losing muscle, which is just as good as building muscle when you're in a deficit. I've kind of talked about this before, but when you're in a calorie deficit, goal number 1 is to lose body fat, and goal number 2, which is a very close number 1, like I wouldn't even consider it like goal 1 and goal 2. I would consider it goal 1A and then goal 1B, is to maintain your muscle mass while you go through that cutting process. And a lot of people, as their strength decreases as they're going through the cutting process, they will be losing muscle. So as long as your gym performance is going up, you're at the very least guaranteeing that you're not losing any muscle mass, which as far as I'm concerned is just as good as building muscle mass as you're in a calorie deficit. So you're probably looking for a straight yes or no answer, but it isn't really as simple as that. I would say there's probably a 75 to 80% chance that you're probably not building muscle during a deficit, but as long as you're not losing muscle during a deficit, I don't think that it really matters, and I don't think that you should care that much. As long as you don't lose muscle while you're cutting, you'll be able to build that muscle when you go back into a bulk after that. So as long as your training is going up, good things are happening, and that would really be all that I would be concerned about personally. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Thank you so much for everyone who contributed questions. Like I said at the beginning, I got a lot of questions, and I wish that I could answer all of them. And I got a lot of questions from people who asked multiple questions. And again, I wish that I could answer all of them, but I got to keep things fair and considerate for time purposes. Now that I've gotten finished procrastinating legs, it's time to go hit legs. So hack squats and pendulums. Let's get it. And then I'll come home and I'll probably start editing this. So as always, guys, if you have any questions or concerns or anything, please feel free to leave them in the comments section, and I will get back to you guys as soon as I can. As I said at the beginning of the video, if you don't follow me on TikTok already, I suggest that you do that so that the next time that I do a video like this, you guys can get your questions answered as well. Thanks again for everyone who took the time to comment and ask questions, and I hope that my answers were sufficient for you. So I will go ahead and wrap this one up. Thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure to follow the channel if you don't already so that you can stay posted for when videos go live. And as always, guys, take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you guys soon.